welcome back to the channel. Today we're back on iRacing for another race in the GT3 cars in the IMSA Championship. This week it's Watkins Glen, one of my favourite tracks on pretty much any game. I love this track. I'm using my own setup for this race. After this race I did get some other setups from David J. Gibbons, and also I used the Pure Racing team after. They were both pretty equal, but I didn't get a chance to race them unfortunately because I totally forgot the last race was 11:45 and I didn't get on to do that race, so unfortunately I couldn't do a race after this. But this race was using a mixture of the Road Atlanta setup from Pure Racing team, and then I made some changes to it to make it a little bit more acceptable. You can see there I've skipped through to the end of the warm-up lap. Obviously this, you have to do a whole lap on this, so we didn't want to watch that just going round. And this is about, the race is about to start as a green light is going to come in and sector safety car goes in. We're going to get underway with this race. I'm starting P3, so an okay lap considering I was using my own setup. Not the best I could have done, but I was reasonably happy with P3. I was one of the highest, I think I was the highest I-rated driver in this, but I've been off the game for so long, it's taken me a while to get back up to speed. But it was good to get straight up to P3 in qualifying. That's reasonably good, ahead of a few other drivers. And you can see straight away built a bit of a gap up for the top three drivers with myself in P3 from P4, which really helped because they're not going to be able to get the slipstream going down the straight. We got the jump on everyone. We seem to have got the start pretty much spot on, the top three drivers, and the other guys seem to be a bit left behind at the start and lost out quite a bit. But you can see everyone has got through this first few corners clean. It looks like there's been no incidents in the GT cars this time around. At Spa I got incredibly lucky in that race where I started pretty much the middle of the pack, and a massive accident going through Spa. If you didn't see that, make sure you check that one out. That was a massive crash and I gained from it massively and got myself into P4. But this race you can see there's a GT driver at the back. Maybe he's had a little bit of an issue, but he should be able to pull away. The GT cars are a lot faster than the GT3 cars, so that shouldn't really come into play that early on in this race. As you can see there, looking back on myself as I'm just trying to hang on to these now. The setup I was using was creating a little bit of, you can see the understeer through that corner. I couldn't get on the power. I was having to play with the throttle a lot through that corner and this corner also. I just couldn't carry the speed that other drivers were able to. On the exit you can see the understeer building. I just can't get the power down, but it was an okay setup considering I pretty much worked on it myself and used a different track setup from another team. And it was stable, but again a little bit of understeer. So the annoying thing is I should have just used the Pure Racing team setup from the start really, because that setup when I first tried it out I couldn't get the hang of it. But then when I went back onto after getting used to the track, with driving this setup, I started going a lot faster. It was quite a bit faster as well. So I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for not using that, because I think I would have had the pace to be ahead of these guys if I was using the proper setup. And also the setup that David J. Gibbons gave me, that was also pretty much equal to the Pure Racing team. But I felt the Pure Racing team had a slight bit more potential overall lap time, but I'd say through a race distance they would have been pretty much identical. But I didn't get a chance to race these setups. Like I said, this was done earlier on a few days before, and then I practiced with these new setups that I had, picked the Pure Racing team at the end purely because I felt like it had a little bit more potential, especially in qualifying. And then went to go to the race and realised that I missed the last race. So this next race I do will probably be the Interlagos race in the GT3 category, the VRS GT3 Championship. So I'll be at Interlagos when I get the next video will be uploaded. I don't own the Canadian motorsport track for the IMSA series, so I'll be doing the GT3. I want to try and get both the races done when I have the tracks for each week to try and get the credits for the end of season. But you can see this race going really well so far in P3, and you can see visually there we've got a 1.4 second lead to P4, and just starting to now just dropping them a little bit now. You can see there P4, 5 and 6 there's a bit of a gap developing, so this was better for myself because I really wanted to get a podium in this race. I've only done, I think it's my third race back in the GT3 cars since I've been away from iRacing, and I really wanted to get a podium just to get some a bit more used to obviously running at the front. Obviously these drivers in front of me I should really be ahead of them. I think if I stayed on iRacing I would have been quite comfortably ahead of these drivers, as I think their iRacings were fairly low. But obviously some people you do find on iRacing, if you get a good setup and you could have a new driver, it's hard to judge people's iRacing because some people can be new to the game, or they like myself, they can come back on it and You know, people think, like, I've had people in the practice session saying, oh, you know, I'm judging your time by mine, but I said to them it's pretty much pointless judging mine because I've been away from the game for such a long time. It's quite, I wouldn't judge, just don't go by my iRating because my iRating is higher than it really should be for the speed that I've got at the moment on the game. I need to get back up to speed, really try and get more used to the game again. A lot has changed since I was on it last. I think the aerodynamics have changed. I think I spoke to someone, David J. Gibson, he said about the aerodynamics have changed a lot in these cars. Need a lot more downforce now, so a lot did feel different when I come back into it. It feels like the cars are a little bit different. The slipstream doesn't seem as strong as well, I feel. I don't know whether that has changed. It could just be the fact that Mercedes don't slipstream well off of each other. As you can see now, going through to the blimp, you can see the gap fairly close between the top three, P1, 2 and 3, and you can just see the P4 driver in between the trees coming through there. You can visually see that that gap is starting to increase, and it's starting to be a bit of a comfortable gap, and it's good because obviously in P3 I didn't want any pressure from behind, because then I'm just trying to hold on to these P1 and P2, try and stay in their slipstream, just about picking up. You see down straight, pretty much on the edge of the slipstream, not picking it up too much really there, but very close to getting it properly. And you see P4 just too far out of it there, and you can see there's a gap between 5 and 6, and then it's a fairly close battle between the back markers there. But me doing reasonable race pace at the moment. Obviously the setup wasn't perfect, but it was reasonably easy to drive again, so I could keep it fairly consistent. I wasn't making too many errors, wasn't really carrying the speed that I wanted to through certain corners because of the way the setup was with the understeer. But it was a long race. Obviously this race was an hour long, so you know, it's about consistency and just keeping the car on the track, not building up any times penalties. I did really well. There was no, in terms of the times for your safety rating, I hadn't really picked up any times ones or anything like that. It was I was driving reasonably clean and keeping it within the track limits and just trying to hold on to these. It was helping me that these two were battling, because every time he was picking up the slipstream going into this corner now, into the really fast chicane, he was going to the left and he was going defensive, the lead driver, and they would probably lose a couple of attempts every time there. So every time I was going through the chicane, I was trying to really attack it so that I could just get back into the slipstream and start getting a little bit closer. You can see there, as I get a little bit closer again and picking up that slipstream a bit stronger, you can see the understeer I get through this corner. It really was affecting me, and then they were able to get on the car that little bit earlier and just pull away again. So a little bit frustrating, but not really much I could do. I was just trying to keep it consistent, keep the car on the track. You know, it's a long race. These races are obviously, you know, an hour long. You've got a pit stop in it, so there's anything can happen in these races, especially with how close they were driving. They were coming within inches of each other. So for me, I was just thinking there's no point overdriving the car too much. I wanted to stay with them obviously, but if there's an instant between them two, you know, iRacing has full damage. It's not like GT Sport where, you know, contact and they can just carry on. In iRacing, a lot of the time, contact results in a retirement, and that's why, in a way, sometimes it's just best to be patient in these races. You know, an hour long, there's no need to make any rash moves. That's why P2 was driving very sensible as well. He wasn't just throwing it up any, you know, the inside and making a really dangerous opportunity, you know, move anywhere. He was taking his time, trying to work out where he can pick up a, you know, a possible overtake. You can see him like looking. You can see him having a little look at the end of the straight to see if he could get on the inside, but it just wasn't really possible with the lack of slipstream he was picking up. As you can see just ahead there is a GTE car which is just a little bit further up the track and could come into play with these drivers in front as well, which could also upset this race at any point. Obviously wanted to try and stay with these, but if he gets in any of their ways, you know, it could really determine which of these driver ends up getting in front. I felt like P2 had a little bit more speed than P1. He seemed to be a little bit cleaner and a little bit more, it looked like he had potential if he got past to pull away by maybe a few attempts every lap. It looked like he definitely had an advantage, although it's hard to tell with the little bit of slipstream he's getting from P1, which will be helping him out. It's hard to tell how much that is making a difference in this race in terms of his pace compared to P1. It's quite hard to work out. You don't know whether that could be helping, just stay with him. Obviously the slipstream I'm getting off P2 is definitely helping me out a little bit in terms of staying with them, although I really just couldn't, some of these corners, the understeer and then the oversteer when I'm trying to like rotate the car with the power of the engine rather than the actual setup doing it for me, it is a little bit frustrating for me. But like I say, I wasn't using the right setup, which I knew. Obviously I did that on purpose, because the first time I tried the pure racing team setup I didn't like it, so I used their Road Atlanta setup and then altered it and changed it around a bit. But what I came to do in the end was just go back to their setup. It drove pretty much fine the second time I tried it, so I don't know what was going on, but the first time I tried it, it felt like nothing like what happened when I drove it the second time. Probably just that I got used to the track and the way to drive the corners and stuff, and it felt really nice the second time. So a little bit annoyed at myself that I didn't use that earlier on and just start straight out with it. It felt like a reasonable setup. As you can see now, the gap to P4 has started to increase now. It's nearly at 3 seconds. It's at 2.9 seconds, and it's increasing pretty much every lap. So managing to hold them drivers off and starting to build up a comfortable gap now to P4. As you can see, looking on the helicopter view, the gap between myself, P1 and 2, very slow. It's coming very close to me losing that slipstream. I'm pretty much out the slipstream now, but I'm just about hanging on to these, trying to push through the chicane, because that was where I seemed fairly strong, being very aggressive through there. You can see visually I close up a little bit, but just not able to put the power down through this right hander. Every time I lose a bit there, you can see on the helicopter how he pulls a little bit out there, and again the same thing on this left hander. I'm just not able to get the power down and just get understeer, which means I can't get the power as early. And again, same thing through this right hander. These are the corners that were really needed a little bit of altering with the setup, but the other corners felt reasonably okay. And it was at this point now where I go to put the power down, I had to go down to second gear, but with the other setup from the Pure Racing team, I was staying in third gear there, and it was able to just accelerate out of it really nice. But you can see there visually, that's where I'm losing a lot of time. This corner felt really nice with the setup I was running. I was able to really attack that and get on the power nice and early, and you can see visually that I gained on that corner pretty much every time. So it's just different traits of the setup, obviously suiting certain corners, but I really wish I would have just gone through to that other setup. But I do love this camera angle on iRacing, looking at the helicopter from the helicopter. You know, you can really see how the drivers take the lines and speed carrying through the corners and obviously into the braking zones. And you can see doing a reasonably good job so far in this race. I do love this track. It's one of my favourite tracks on any sim game. It's a track that I wish would come to something like GT Sport, but I find it very unlikely it'll ever come to that game. Although it would be amazing if it did. It's again going through the third turn one, and you can see trying to get a really strong exit from that corner to pick up the slipstream and to try and see if I can just get back closer to these guys. You can see visually behind me, there's quite a big gap developed now, and I've got, you know, a really comfortable margin to P4, and not really under any pressure for them. So it was looking like it was going to be a reasonably good result at this stage. It looks like I've got at least a P3 sorted, and again getting very close through the chicane. You can see there, really got aggressive through there and managed to get very close again. So I'm able to pick up time at some points, but again, look at the difference in terms of speed through that corner. I'm not able to carry the speed that they are through that corner, and that is probably the issue where I was losing a lot of time overall. You know, the really fast right-hander and then these two left-handers, and there's that left-hander and then the right-hander now we're coming to, is where I was losing the time. So that was a little bit unfortunate. You can see the understeer on the front of my car where I'm just not able to put the power down, and just trying to stay with them as much as possible, because if I can just hang on to that slipstream, it means then we're in the stronger zones. As you can see, overtaking a GT driver, he's obviously had an issue somewhere. Maybe he's probably had to let us pass also because it's starting to get in our way, and obviously he doesn't want to get involved with a battle for the lead in the GT3 cars. So a bit strange that he's got that issue. Maybe he's had a bit of contact somewhere, he's got damage, but really the GT drivers should really be out of the way. The cars are quite a bit faster than the GT3 cars. They've got a lot more grip through the corners, so it's very rare you see that in top split races. But obviously I think this race wasn't the highest rated lobby, quite a lot of lower rated drivers in there, so there were some drivers really struggling, like that GT driver that just overtook there. But again, we got another GT driver just a little bit ahead of P1 in the GT3 class. You can see there just a couple of seconds up the road, so if I wasn't too sure if he was going to come into play in this race. So he coming to the starting lap 9 now. Obviously this race was going to be about a 34-35 lap race, probably a 34 lap race with the temperatures that we were running here. So the fuel, I had pretty much guessed, again I had it set at 54, I think 55 litres, and just hoping it was going to be about right. I still haven't downloaded the app, I really do need to do that, but from previous experience I found that when I did it last time, I didn't really need it, because after doing one race I pretty much could judge it to within half a litre every time anyway. It was just pretty much common sense by using the average per lap, and I kind of worked out with what temperature it is, how many laps the race would end up going. So I'd always just play it safe. So sometimes you'd end up with a couple of litres left, you know, 2, 3, 4 litres left, but it's not as much of an issue as it is on this game as GT Sport, because obviously with GT Sport's exaggerated times and wear and stuff, you know, it's a little bit different in terms of the time it takes from the pit lane to fuel up and stuff. You see there, that GTE driver is definitely getting caught up by the leading GT3 driver. I'm just about hanging on to this car in front of me. It looks like the gap's just around 1 second, maybe 1.1 seconds, but you can see on the P4 it looks like it's changed places with, looks like the P4 driver has either made a mistake somewhere. Now the current P4 driver is nearly 5 seconds behind, 4.8 seconds behind, so we're really comfortable in terms of P4, but just trying to hang on to his drive in front. And I really do love these type of races where you've got to keep pushing and keep driving and keep concentrating, because you can't afford to lose out and make an error that, you know, loses you half a second to a second in a lap. You've just got to keep consistency. It's a long race, just keep on the track and just try and stay with them and hope that something happens, that you can jump a position, or even a P3 on iRacing and top split racing is reasonable. I would have been reasonably happy with this, and this, you know, considering I've just come back on it. I do know that I should have more potential. I do know I should be faster, but you know, coming back to a game after a long break, this is the type of game that does take a bit of time to get back used to it. See they're building, getting a time to one there. I think I'd only picked up a couple at this stage, so wasn't really worried about picking up the odd 1 or 2. I think that was my first one actually, possibly. So I wasn't really worried about picking up any more. It's been going so far, you know, 9 laps without picking up a single time one. And this is again why I do like iRacing's way of doing the penalty system, because on GT Sport I would have picked up a penalty for that, which I'd have to back off. Whereas on iRacing, it just gives you that little warning. You pick up 17 of them and you're going to get disqualified. So you know what you're running, you know what you've got to stick to in terms of how many you've got left. You know, like if there's contact, if you're on 15, you've got to be really careful, because if you get car contact with someone else, you're disqualified. And I really wish that GT Sport would implement some sort of system close to iRacing, because it just keeps the racing flowing a lot better. You don't see people backing off all the time, ghosting cars and stuff. And I think that's what GT Sport really needs to do, is incorporate the iRacing system, because pretty much every race I've had, there's been a couple of instances in the iRacing races, but the flow has been kept going. It's quite nice to be back into that flow of racing without getting constant penalties and seeing cars picking up penalties and stuff. You know, you won't see many cars backing off because they picked up a corner cut penalty, because most of the penalties for corner cuts are just times 1. Only if you drastically cut a corner like and gain an actual advantage would again give you a penalty that you have to back off, and that's normally if you really, you know, make quite a big gain. As you can see there, I'm starting to lose a little bit of contact now with P1 and P2 as they're starting to really push hard. Obviously they're battling away and they're driving really aggressive now. Coming up to pretty much a third of the way through the race now. Lap 10, obviously just on the third of the way, it's going to go to 34 laps, but so far it's been okay. And again, picking up another time to one there, but again I wasn't too worried about that. It was only a very slight cut on that corner, which pushed me to times 2, so I've still got 15 of them left, and you know, we're nearly a third away through the race, so no real worries on the safety rating at all. As you can see there, there's a few cars up ahead. You can see 2 GT cars. There's a yellow Ferrari by the looks of it, and I think there's a Porsche just ahead of the GT3 car. It looks like a Porsche RSR 911 RSR. As you can see there, trying to just get back into that slipstream. It's really quite hard. You can see I'm 1.3 seconds behind. Going into the braking as late as I can, getting very close and picking it back up. You know, that corner was very strong on the braking, but again, being a bit too aggressive there. You can see getting a little closer, but then as soon as we get to the corners that I struggle on, is where I start losing a bit of time. But maintaining around 1.3 seconds at the moment, so pace isn't too bad. I'm still in with a shout in this race. If anything happens, you know, anything could happen in these races. You don't know what's going to happen after the pit stop. If someone puts in too much fuel, or if someone under fuels, they have to do some saving. Like at Spa when the Audi had to do some massive saving towards the end, and I nearly got it on the finishing line. So if I could just go, I normally go quite safe with the fuel, so normally making sure that I've got 2-3 litres left by the end just in case. That's how I tend to run them anyway. As you can see, they're getting extremely close now, going up the hill, and it looks like he's going to be able to have a little look to see if he can make a move. You can see he's picking up a massive symptom, but again, P1 goes to that right hand side. He's defending it really well. There's not really much you can do from P2 on that left hand side. All P1 has to do is just brake a little bit later, tuck it in on the inside, and he's got that corner. P2 is not going to risk anything. You know, it's a long race. He won't throw that up the inside, throw it around the outside and try and hold it. It's not really worth it from there. Pretty much all that's going to happen if that happens is both of you are going to end up out of the race. So he's trying to be patient. He'll probably wait for the pit stop phase and maybe pit a lap or two early, and then try and really push and jump into the pits, as you can see. Moving on board now with the blimp cam, you can see the visual gap that they're building up over myself. It's not too much. You can see I'm very close to picking up that slipstream again, but behind me it's quite a big gap now developing to P4. It's over 5 seconds. It's getting on for 6 seconds, and it's really fairly comfortable in terms of the gap to P4. So really happy at this stage. You know, P3 I'd be happy with. I just now want to try and hang on to these just in case there is any instance in this race. You know, anything can happen. You don't know what's going to happen. You can see there the GT drivers getting extremely close there. It looks like the Ferrari, could be two Ferraris, I can't really tell from that view. They're very close together, just ahead, and it's quite strange that the GT drivers were really that close to the GT3 drivers. Normally you'd find that GT3 drivers can just pull away. A lot of the time the GT3 drivers lap the GT drivers lap the GT3 drivers, sorry. You can see riding on board now, starting lap 12, and now we're going onto the back straight, and then again you see P2 doesn't look as close as he was to the lap before. A little bit of a gap, so P1 again is going to be able to get to that right hand side and defend it down the straight. You can see there on the delta on the bottom right, you see 7.7 seconds to P4, so nearly an 8-second lead over P4, so really comfortable now. As you can see they're battling away going into the chicane. I decided to really try and push and get close to them while they're battling so hard. So going into the chicane, had a little moment, a little bit of oversteer, managed to save it and get it back on track, go through the corner, and the GT car has lost control in the middle of the corner, and I had nowhere to go. Pretty much race over, and you see there ×4 for contact, so put me up to ×6. I'm stuck in the barrier, and a bit of a disaster. I was really annoyed because the race was going so well, and then some random thing like that happens, and I just couldn't get out of the way. You can see now, managed to save that really well, going back through the corner, and then he reverses just as I'm trying to get down that left hand side. I don't know whether he reverses or whether he's just let go and stopped braking, but he's obviously tried to get off the racing line, but he went backwards and I just got stuck with nowhere to go. Obviously the spotter tells me to go left, I go left. I could see a gap down the left hand side. You'll see it now as we drive on board from behind. He starts reversing there and I just get wiped out, and then I'm stuck in the barrier, and it would have been race over anyway with the damage. But let's just look at this in slow motion. So got a little bit of a sideways action there, but managed to save it. No real issue. Kept on the power and tried to, I saw that then, I only just saw it, and then tried to go down the left hand side, but you saw him reversing, and it was just, the gap just kept shrinking and shrinking, and nothing I could really do. I wouldn't have been able to go down the right hand side with the speed I was carrying through the corner, and unfortunately the race ended for myself, and annoyingly I didn't get the race participation because it didn't go over 50%, but hopefully I can get some other races done to get the full 8 races done in the season. But a little bit frustrated, not much I could do. It was looking like a solid P3 really. It was looking like I would get at least P3 in that race, and wiped out through no fault on my own. But this is iRacing, you know, these type of things happen in real life, you know, racing incident. But again, let's just hope that I get some better luck in the next race. I think I used up all my luck at Spa with the lap 1 incident where I got through all the drivers, because my luck on GT Sport and iRacing recently has been a little bit down, and hopefully it'll just pick back up again, and I can get some good results. Anyway, thanks again for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed racing in that race. It was really enjoyable while it lasted, and I'll be uploading more iRacing content very soon. So thanks again for watching. Make sure you sub the channel if you obviously haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. I do upload every day on GT Sport and also iRacing every 2 videos a week or something like that. Thanks again for watching, everyone.